Hello, everyone, and welcome to Metalography Podcast. I'm your host, Willie TheWillster. So, in this episode, we're going to be looking at Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power. Pantera, whether you love them or hate them, they have made a major impact in the world of heavy metal. So, for me, I can remember hearing them and just immediately I fell in love with them. Now, I can't honestly remember if Walk was the first song that I heard from them, or maybe it was Cowboys from Hell. But either way, I've been a fan of them since I first heard them. Dimebag Darrell's guitar sound was so amazing that I always tried to get a similar sound when playing guitar. Coming from Texas, their sound definitely had some blues foundations in it. I believe Darrell and Vinny are sons of I believe his name is Jerry Abbott, who was a country musician and record producer, I believe. So definitely had that country influence. But of course, Dimebag and Vinnie Paul took it to a whole another level there. So when you combine Dimebag Darrell's guitar sound with Vinnie Paul's drum beats and Rex Brown on bass, you have a great combination. And then Phil Anselmo's voice just brought a whole nother level to them. And real quickly, some of y'all may know that Pantera started out as a glam metal band. They had a different singer. They even released a few albums kind of in the 80s with that whole like hair metal, glam metal style. And it wasn't until Phil Anselmo took over on vocals that they kind of changed. And Vulgar Display of Power kind of being that second kind of on their major label record, but it was really, I believe, their sixth record they recorded overall. So say what you will about Phil, but his vocals definitely fit the direction that the band was going to, kind of what started on Cowboys from Hell and onto this album, Vulgar Display of Power. Now, unfortunately, Dimebag was taken away from the heavy metal world too early. Most people may know, but if you don't, that in 2004, he was murdered while actually playing on stage. Him and his brother had formed a new band, Damage Plan, and they were doing a show, and someone unfortunately went up on stage and decided to kill Dimebag Darrell. It was a very shocking incident. I remember hearing about it on the news, and I think I was actually at work when I saw a news article pop up, and I was like gasped, and a few of my coworkers kind of looked at me, and I was like, Dimebag Darrell freaking died on stage. And they're like, who's Dimebag Darrell? I'm like, well, he was a guitarist for the band Pantera and a great guitarist, but just kind of had to take a moment back and realize that, you know, the world of heavy metal is such a kind of small world, I guess. I don't know if I really want to say that, but you know, you and people who like heavy metal music know the culture, they know the bands, they know the musicians, and you got to remember that when majority of the people maybe don't like heavy metal music or don't listen to it outside of some of maybe the big names like your Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, you know, the ones that have really broken out from the small culture of heavy metal. And again, I don't like to use the word small because heavy metal is not small at all. There are so many different subgenres, as most people are aware, and that this show, I'll cover quite a few of those, you know, in future episodes. Anyways, to kind of get back on track here, Dimebag's passing, you know, it really hit me hard. I looked up to him as a guitarist. I looked up to him as a musician, and I just loved the music that him and his brother and all of Pantera put out. And then, unfortunately, also in 2018, his brother, Vinnie Paul, also passed away. So both were great musicians, and they were nothing less than masters of their instruments. And I can remember watching a VHS tape of Pantera, and it showed some of their music videos and some of their backstage shenanigans that they were known for. If anyone has seen them on tour, or maybe have gotten a chance to go backstage during one of their tours, or maybe have just seen videos of what they were like backstage. They did very different stuff backstage that I don't know how many bands did, but I just remember that their biggest thing was always trying to bet on making people just do some crazy stuff. And of course, those amounts would go into the thousands, maybe even $10,000s of dollars, just to see how far someone would go and do something crazy. But another part that stuck out to me on the video was I would see how beat up Vinnie Paul's drumsticks looked after a show, and they looked like someone took a miniature axe to them and made all kinds of chops to them. And that just kind of showed me like how he really hit those drums, and that every part of his drumstick made a sound while playing on his kit. And it just was something new for me because I hadn't really seen anything like that. I hadn't been to many concerts at the time either, and let alone seeing anything backstage or even from the stage, other than what I saw in that Pantera video. Man, I wish I could remember the name of that VHS tape. Might have been a Cowboys from Hell videos, or I'm not sure, but I remember watching it a lot. So then Ozzfest 97. So that was my first time to see them live. And it was my second concert overall to ever go to. My dad actually took me and my two best friends, Michael and Jody, to that concert. And it was just mind-blowing. The lineup at the time for me was kind of a dream lineup because of some of the bands that were on that bill, Pantera being one of them, Machine Head, Fear Factory, Typo Negative, Power Man 5000. Ozzy, of course, was there, and at the time they were doing a kind of semi-reunion with Black Sabbath. I think all the original members except the drummer was at that show doing that. I'll definitely probably talk more about this concert, but I do have a funny story to say that at the end of the show, my dad was such a trooper. He took me and my best friends to the show, and he just stood there with us all hours of the show, just watching everything. He didn't once say like, I'm ready to leave, or when are we leaving? He was just there. And he said at the end of the show, he was laughing at how many people just kept nodding their head yes. And I had to explain to him that that's what was called headbanging, and that's how, fans of heavy metal music or metalheads, kind of dance to heavy metal music. And a little touching point, a few years after my dad had passed away, my sister was going through some of his stuff, and she found the ticket stub to that Ozzfest 97 concert. He kept that ticket stub all these years afterwards, which when my sister showed me that, it was very touching, knowing that my dad may not have really understood heavy metal music or was a fan of it. The fact that he sacrificed a whole Saturday to take me and my friends to the show, not complain once, and then even hold on to that ticket, just kind of shows how, much it may have meant to him, or maybe he knew it meant a lot to me and my friends, and he just was happy to be a part of that. So talking about that show, when Pantera took the stage, I remember the crowd just exploding. They opened with Cowboys from Hell, and I was just amazed by what I was seeing. As I mentioned earlier, Ozzfest 97 was only my second concert I'd ever been to, so I was definitely in a new world still as a young metalhead. And like I mentioned, I will talk more about this show and my first concert experience in later episodes for sure. But from the moment Pantera started their set to the very last note, it was just a non-stop whirlwind of metal music for me. They must have known that they were going to take that stage and own it, and they were going to just give the best. I don't know, I think they played for maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, and it was just a fast-paced roller coaster ride. And I still count myself fortunate to see them live during this time period in their careers, because I really think this was pretty much the peak of Pantera during 97. I know Far Beyond Driven had already come out, and I think The Great Southern Trendkill had just come out or was about to come out soon afterwards. So they were on fire. They were taking the metal scene by storm, and especially at a time when most people were saying heavy metal was dead. Heavy metal was gone. Headbangers Ball had been canceled. You had shows like Alternative Nation coming on. Grunge was definitely taking over the radio airwaves in the mid to late 90s. And to see Pantera still putting out some of this music was just amazing. And they were definitely there to say that heavy metal is not dead and that they're ready to keep it going and keep that flag going. Okay, so according to a chat I had with Abraham Lincoln on the internet, this album, Vulgar Display of Power, came out on February 25th, 1992 on Atco Records. It is one of Pantera's highest selling albums and has been certified as double platinum. And Rolling Stone ranked this album as number 10 on their 100 greatest albums of all time. The album peaked at number 44 on the Billboard 200 album chart and spent 79 weeks on the chart, which is also the most weeks any Pantera album spent on the chart. This album had a great mix of thrash and groove that really gave Pantera a unique and signature sound. Like I'd mentioned, Dimebag's sound on his guitar, I always tried to get a similar sound that he had, and I couldn't. His sound was signature, and his playing ability was signature. It was just something that was different and that you really didn't hear a whole lot, especially when he provided kind of that groove feel with his guitar, and Rex also kind of filling in on the bass with that groove type of rhythm that just you didn't really hear a whole lot at the time on heavy metal albums. At the time, most heavy metal albums were your thrash, or you had maybe a more of an underground death metal sound, but you didn't get a whole lot of like groove that you could just kind of know, like, oh yeah, they got some blues undertones going, and you can definitely tell that Dimebag grew up probably playing the blues by the way he would play his guitar and even some of the solos that he would do. So the songs on this album are Mouth for War, A New Level, Walk, Fucking Hostile, This Love, Rise, No Good, Live in a Hole, Regular People, By Demons Be Driven, and Hollow. Mouth for War wastes no time in kicking into gear. The song just explodes at the beginning, kind of like getting hit in the face, which is shown on the album's cover. If you're familiar with this album, you know that the cover is a face punching or getting punched by a fist. And while I was kind of doing some research on this album, apparently there was a lot of rumors that they paid the guy to get punched in the face like $10 a punch or $30 a punch or something like that. Well, those were rumors. They really did not pay a guy to just stand there and get punched in the face while they took a bunch of pictures. They probably did some photoshopping, and the magic of editing, that I like to say, managed to capture that iconic album cover that when you see that album cover, you know that's Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power. And seeing that, you just kind of know, like, wonder if I'm going to feel like this album's like a punch in the face. And Mouth for War definitely kicks that off. Phil's vocals just added to that experience. And yeah, I can't say anything more than Mouth for War is definitely that punch in the face to kick off this album. And A New Level kind of continues that momentum and really shows Dimebag's solo abilities. And that's one thing I really liked about Dimebag and Pantera sound in general. Dimebag was the only guitarist, and typically when you're the only guitarist, when you're recording albums, you lay down multiple different kind of guitar tracks depending on what the guitar is doing, especially during maybe solos. You may hear the solo going, but if you kind of also listen, you can hear kind of an underlaid guitar track, rhythm track that's going. But that is something that Pantera really didn't do. When Dimebag did a solo, that was really the only guitar part you heard. You rarely heard any rhythm guitar underneath it. And they utilized the other instruments to really fill out that extra space. Rex on bass and Vinnie Paul on drums, they just made it sound so full that even though the guitar was just playing a solo, it didn't lose any sound space or anything. The rest of the band just kept everything nice and full and heavy without Dime always having to record a backing guitar track during his solos. And Walk has that signature riff that just took metal and groove and made it something big. Like I said earlier, I don't know if Walk might really have been the very first Pantera song I heard, and I most likely probably heard it on the radio, because even though at the time metal may have been on a slow decline, they were still playing some stuff on the radio, and I do remember hearing that song played on the radio. And even today, if you listen to any kind of like classic rock stations or maybe obscure stations that just still play some old metal music, Walk is definitely probably one of their most played songs on the radio station. And this song is probably the one people most hear played at shows when they went. It was a fan favorite. The riff may sound so simple, but you can't deny it was something heavy, and to me really showed some of the blues influence that Pantera has. Again, the solo on this song is amazing, and with Dime just playing the solo, Rex's bass line just really fills up the space left out by that rhythm guitar. I think this is probably my favorite solo by Dime, not only on this album, but overall. Like, I can still, to this day, keep hearing almost every note of that solo and that bass line underneath. Just such a great song, and there's a reason why that song was probably one of their biggest single hits of all time. So Fucking Hostile is just as it sounds. With a title like that, you expect something intense, and brother, do you get it. The song really shows their thrash metal roots on it, and it's so hard and heavy that it's really difficult not to get pumped up when you hear it blasting in your ears. Definitely a song that if you're at the gym or you're needing to get pumped up or get yourself psyched up for something really big, throw that song on and man, you're going to be ready to go. This Love is a ballad, I guess. So, I mean, it starts out clean with some slow, clean guitars of a typical ballad, but the chorus, Phil's voice is more dirty than clean, and the instruments also pick it up a notch. Not to mention the breakdown that happens in the middle of the song is also pretty heavy. So let me know what you think. Should this song be considered a ballad, or maybe it's more of a semi-ballad song? Rise picks it back up full speed with a heavy thrash metal riff and sound, and then it hits a great groove riff. Then goes back to thrash metal again. Almost feels like you're on a musical roller coaster. Just the way it picks up, slows down, picks up. It's really good. No Good has Phil doing more of a talking style vocals on the verse and then switches to a more dirty singing, screaming. And it gives such a unique feeling. Live in a Hole starts with a great driving riff. I really enjoy this song because they use some tempo changes between the verse and chorus, and it almost feels like you're listening to two separate songs that accidentally got mixed together, and it just sounds amazing. Like it fits, it clicks, and all I can really say is like you need to check out that song to really see what I'm talking about, that tempo change between that verse and that chorus and how it just switches. Like you almost can feel like where a switch clicks and it's a brand new song and then clicks back and clicks to that other song. It's really cool, and it's one of my favorites on the album. Regular People is also another one of my favorites off this album. I remember listening to a radio show and they would play that intro riff of the song when they would start their show, and I would always be tricked thinking they were going to play the song. But no, it was just the intro, and then the hosts would come on and they'd say good morning or whatever they were talking about. And this song also has kind of a fast start and then slows to a groove for the verse and just to pick back up for the pre-chorus and chorus. So you're kind of seeing a theme of that thrash part of heavy metal and Pantera just adding a groove to it that, like I said, you really didn't hear a whole lot in heavy metal albums. Pantera was definitely doing something different, and it made them stick out. So the next song, By Demons Be Driven, another one of my favorites. Some may say it is the weakest song on the album, but I kind of disagree with that. While it may have a simpler music structure and maybe not switch between thrash and groove as much as some of the other songs on the album, the chorus riff is just, it's a sick riff to me. It has that driving palm muted strumming with the end of the riff, a wailing cry from Dime's guitar that just, it sounds great to me. Just something very cool that you should check out and listen to. And then the last track is called Hollow. And to me, Hollow is a bit more of a ballad than maybe This Love is. The clean guitar under the solo that Dime plays always gives a haunting and cold feeling. Like you can feel the coldness of the guitar. Phil sings the best on this song. Like he actually sings on it. Doesn't really do too much of the screaming singing. And it just adds an extra layer to that whole sound, that cold, dark feeling that the song is trying to convey. And then the lyrics, they're probably some of the darkest lyrics on this album. The album, or the song, the song is about someone, a good friend of theirs being in a coma, being hollow, like I said. And so the lyrics and the music, it just, they knew how to meld all that together. Towards the middle of the song, it slowly builds up and gives almost a marching feeling, and I always loved how it built up to that. And the music just fits with the way Phil is singing on that part also. You can really feel the anger and the hurt that is happening with this person in a coma. And I don't know if the band ever said if it was about someone they knew personally or just in general they knew what it was like to know someone in a coma, but you can definitely tell that there may have been some personal experience with it based on the lyrics and the way that song is just done. It's a great song. So my final review of this album is that this album just rocks. It is an amazing album from beginning to end, and Pantera really locked in their signature sound and songwriting skills on this album. And honestly, I don't know if I can pick just one song off here that is my favorite. But if I had to, I would probably just have to go with Mouth for War is my favorite one on it. I mean, it's the first song on the album. It's a great first track, and it kicks off the way a metal album should kick off. Just hard, fast, basically with that punch to the face like the album cover. So thanks for joining me, and please let me know what you thought of this album by emailing me at metalographypodcast@gmail.com. Also, let me know of any albums you would like for me to review. Please like and follow and subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. This helps to grow the show and make it better. Follow us on Twitter at metalographypod and like us on Facebook and Instagram at metalographypodcast. All the links are in the description below. Thanks again for listening and for your support. And remember, keep it loud and keep it metal. Be blessed, everyone.